Hey everybody, Steve Lucian here. Today we're going to talk about the Dive Rite O2ptima CM. It's a chest-mounted rebreather. It's one of the most versatile rebreathers on the market, and I want to actually explain to you why. We're going to go through, break it down piece by piece, show you the internal workings of it. I'm going to actually build the unit for you. So stay tuned. I hope you like this video. If you haven't done so already, hit that like button, hit that bell, subscribe to this channel. Let's get started.
Incredibly versatile, self-contained, and travel-ready, the O2ptima CM will change the way you think about rebreathers. The chest-mounted design easily attaches to almost any harness using 4 bolt snaps. This means it's fully compatible with your current open-circuit diving system, be it side mount, back-mounted doubles, or even a single tank. Any harness that can accommodate 2 high shoulder D-rings and 2 waist D-rings will accept the O2ptima CM. The rebreather can easily be added or removed for any mission on the fly or even underwater. Now let's take this rebreather, let's build it from the ground up, and let's get this thing ready to go in the water. Before you build your unit, you want to make sure you follow your checklist. And remember, you should never dive with a known failure. You will notice there are 4 O2 cells. One is dedicated to the HUD. We're going to take a Phillips screwdriver and we're going to take off the screw and actually open the head up so you can see inside. Gently remove the premix tube. You can detach it as well. If you notice, the solenoid is right there. We also have the wiring harness and of course the 4 O2 cells. We'll reattach. Now it's time to grab and attach our nerd. Let's now attach the HUD. We're going to now turn on the HUD. You'll see that it'll show that it is oriented the correct way, the red line at the bottom. You'll see it will blink 8 times. That is showing a 0.2 or a 0.21, which is ambient air. We are now going to turn on the nerd. We're going to now check the millivolts on the HUD sensors. At ambient air, it's showing 11.6, 11.7, and a 13.1. This is well within the proper range that Dive Rite recommends. You'll want to write this down on your checklist. Alright, at this time we're going to take a look at the O-rings on the head as well as the water trap, making sure that there's absolutely no dings, nicks, and that everything's seated well. I'm going to take a little bit of tri-lube on my finger and very lightly coat everything. I'm going to make sure also that the premix tube, which is that plastic straw looking thing, is actually, the O-ring is pulled up about 1.5 inches. I'm now looking at the canister, making sure that the Delrin canister is not dinged, nicked, cracked, or scratched. Everything looks good here. I'm going to take my EAC cartridge. You'll notice the markings that are pointing up. We want to make sure that is in fact up, and we're going to slide that in. Now we're going to take our little nut there and we're going to screw it in, making sure it is aimed downward. You'll see it can flip depending on what type of sorb you're doing. If you're doing the granular or the EAC cartridge, it will be opposite. Alright, now we're going to take the canister with the cartridge installed and we're going to line up the arrows and very cautiously take that premix tube. I'm going to slide it in, line it up, and you'll feel it seat. It'll clip. Now I'm going to take my water trap and I'm going to also line it up and press it down. You'll feel it seat. I turn it slightly, and then I lay it on its side and finish turning. All arrows line up. Alright, at this point, you'll want to do a pressure test on your canister by blowing on one side, holding with your hand. Now I'm going to take my calibration caps and I'm going to install them as so. Make sure that the one that has the gasket is on the left, on the head. Now I'm going to take the first stage of the regulator and cautiously screw it into the O2 bottle. Now I'm going to take the hose, I'm going to connect it. When you turn that on, you want to go real slow. We'll do that just in a moment. But first we need to connect the nerd and the HUD. If you're using a petrol, it's the same exact thing. I do not have a petrol to show during this video. Now we'll connect the HUD. Once that's connected, I'll turn on the HUD. I'm going to check my O2 cells on my nerd. I'm going to very carefully open up the O2. Not too fast. You'll hear me back it down. Take a listen. Once my PO2 is stabilized, I look at my millivolts, and they are well within the manufacturer's range. I'm going to take these millivolts and write them down in my checklist. It's time to calibrate the nerd controller. Click Calibrate. I confirm, and there you have it. It's time to calibrate the HUD. We turn it on by pressing once. If we press 2 times, it'll bring us to the calibration menu. We hold down firmly for all the lights to blink. It'll cycle through, and it should blink a solid yellow, a solid green once, signifying a 1.0, and we are good. I'm going to start to take everything apart here and get ready to start installing everything on the counterlungs. I'm taking off the calibration caps. I'll put those away. Now I'm going to take the first stage off of the DIN on the O2 bottle, set that aside. We'll reinstall that later. Now I'm going to take some Tri-Lube, just a very little amount. I'm going to apply it on all of the O-rings. I don't want to use too much on this, just enough. Now I'm going to grab my water trap tubes. I take the white one and I firmly grab and press it in. Cautious not to hurt the bag on the inside. And then of course the black one goes on the right side, the shorter one. Once those are installed, it's time to assemble the DSV and hoses. You'll want to inspect the DSV and mouthpiece. Again, a little bit of Tri-Lube. Just lubricate on the inside lightly. It is very important to be checking to make sure everything's at the correct orientation. Turn and it should click. Kind of spin everything, making sure that it's all proper. Do the same on the other side. Press, spin, click. We're going to make sure that the air is moving in the right direction. Now it's time to assemble the DSV and hoses onto the counterlungs. Press and spin. Make sure this is tight. Again, press, spin. Make sure not to cross thread. Make sure it's tight, and it is. Good to go. Making sure everything is the correct orientation, not flipped. Now it's time to install the nerd. What I like to do is I like to take the end of the nerd first, slide it through the bungees. Once it's through the bungees, I will put it through the bag, and you'll see there are two holes on the right side. I will actually go through, open the Velcro, slide my hand in, push that through, and then route it through the other hole, like so. Pulling in the excess wire and spinning it, and then taking that Velcro, you'll see in a moment, and I like to press that Velcro holding the wires, like so. Now I'm taking my HUD, doing the exact same thing. Now I use my HUD differently. I do not mount it on my DSV, but I am going to route that through those holes again, pulling it through, all the way through. I'll pull it. I'll put it up through that little loop right there so I can grab it if needed on my dive. But then I'm going to take the excess and I'm going to pull it on that wire, spin it maybe a few times, and I'm going to tuck it and put it in with that Velcro piece and tuck it inside so it is stowed away. Now, what I like to do is take a little bit of Tri-Lube, not much, and just coat the ends of those connectors. I do this every time just to make sure there's no corrosion. Everything's looking good. Now it's time to install the head onto the counterlungs. Get ready and line everything up. We're going to be placing those batteries inside the bungees there. I like to have the blue wire coming out from the right side. I'll tuck that excess there inside. You'll see goes inside there. I like to have the green wire coming out from the left side, and you'll understand why in a moment here. It's just an easier way, more clean way to route those wires. Now, when you're doing this and you're lining up the counterlungs and you're trying to thread everything onto the head, be cautious not to cross thread. And if you feel like it's not screwing in as easily as it should, stop, back it up, and do it again. And I had a little bit of trouble on the left side, so I stopped, went to the right side, lined it up. The right side I went in much easier, and you'll see that. You want to make sure these are snug, nice and tight. Grab it with two hands and crank it. There you go. On this side, I finally got it, and yes, there goes threads, nice and easy. Making sure it's nice and tight. All right, so once everything is done, now I'm going to start connecting my wires. Green to green, blue to blue. Tighten those up, just ensuring that the cables do not get bent or disconnected. Again, connect it. Tuck everything away. Now it's time to clip everything and secure it. I like to give it a good little pull just to make sure it's tight.
and we're good to go. Looks nice. Now we're going to grab our oxygen hose. And we're going to place it like so. And then we're going to grab and attach the other side of the hose to the oxygen MAV. Once that is connected, we're going to attach it to the head. This should only be finger tight. You don't want to use any tools for this. This is the oxygen solenoid hose. We're going to make sure that the inline shutoff on the Y block is turned on and is locked. Now I'm going to install the oxygen hose. But first what I'll do is I'll take the oxygen bottle and I'm going to put it in like so. I like to slide it a little bit left and then go to the right. It makes it a little easier. I like to line up everything so it's centered as much as possible. Now I'm going to connect the first stage onto the DIN of the oxygen cylinder, and I'm going to connect the oxygen hose to the Y block by sliding underneath. And I'm going to make sure that I lock this down using the little plastic locking clip. And then I like to spin it underneath. This is important. If not, it will become unclipped. Looks like we're all ready to go. We are ready for the next step. We're now going to do our negative pressure test for 30 seconds, sucking all of the air out of the counter lungs. You'll see the hoses are contracting. We're looking to see if those hoses expand or if we hear any hissing. If that's the case, then we have a leak somewhere. Everything's looking good, no leaks. We're going to release, let the air back in. Now it's time to do our positive pressure test. For 2 minutes, we're going to blow air into the counter lung. We're going to completely fill it. We're going to tighten our OPV, and we're going to close it and leave it for 2 minutes. Again, feeling it, listening for any hissing. If all is good, then we're ready to move on to the next step.
It's important to check your O2's pressure and write that down on your checklist. Before you pre-breathe, you want to make sure your set point is at a 0.5 and that your oxygen is fully turned on. You might also want to open up the OPV slightly to make it easier to breathe. Hold your nose the entire time. You want to pre-breathe for no less than 5 minutes. The entire time you want to be checking that your PO2 is able to reach set point. If everything works out good, then you're ready to go.
I've been dreaming on in my head like I've seen it. A life worth living is a life with meaning. I'll do what I love till my heart stops beating. I'm feeding this demon. Got a taste, can't erase bitterness in my face. Work a job every day till your dreams fade away. Like a card, never change, play the game that we say. I need a break. I'm staying strong, need to move on to be what I want. I'll keep dreaming on. I'm staying strong, need to move on to be what I want. I'll keep dreaming.